Hey everybody, this is Drew with MicaSense. Welcome to episode 2 of our podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Stephen Mangum. We've got a very special guest today that I'll introduce in just a few minutes. But before we do that, Stephen, do you want to give us a recap of episode 1?
Hey Drew, thanks. Yeah, last time we spoke to our Latin American salesperson, Eric DeBatz, and he gave us a great run through what makes the Latin American market different, especially Brazil, and how it's such a unique marketplace, and there's still a lot of room for growth down there. And yeah, we're really excited to bring on our second guest.
So today we have Stephanie Lambert from Wingtra. Wingtra is a UAV manufacturer based in Switzerland, and Stephanie is in charge of global sales operations. First of all, welcome to the episode.
Hey guys, yeah, thanks. I'm really excited to be here.
You know, one of the reasons I reached out for you to come onto this episode was because I think you were the first person I talked to at Wingtra.
Yeah, that could be.
I got a Google News alert telling me that this new vertical takeoff and landing drone had kicked off. And I read about it, and then I reached out to you guys and wanted you to integrate our camera, basically. And I think you were the first person I interacted with.
Yeah, I remember.
So I think the thing that really caught my eye actually about that drone was the color, really.
Yes, I mean the color is very let's say it's an how you call it in English, an eye catcher, I would say.
Yeah,
it's a great color. Most of the people love it. Some people still ask us if they can have it in a different one. But overall, I think it's a great success story, this color. But it was actually, to be honest, it's one of the first, one of the decisions that we took back, I don't know, maybe 2015 or early 16 that are still very well in my mind, because it was kind of a funny situation how we came up with this color. And I don't know if you want to hear the story about how Wingtra became orange.
People listening to this episode are going to want to know.
Yes. So it was funny because we had a designer back then, and of course it was a topic like, okay, so now when we start about producing this, like going beyond just a prototype and actually producing the real drone, we need a color, right? And so our designer, he proposed 3 different templates in a color design, basically. And so it was blue, yellow, and this coral red. And it was all the founders and me and the designer in a meeting. And it was a very emotional discussion about this color. And in the end, as Swiss as we are, we had a democratic vote about, okay, what's the color that we go for? And then in the end, we decided to go for this coral red. And yeah, it was kind of an emotional discussion about it, because everyone has their own associations with colors, right? Yeah. And so we went for this coral red, and then when we actually wanted to produce that color, or the wings with that color, we somehow noticed, okay, it's not even that easy to get exactly that type of color, and so we had to adapt it a bit and really look, okay, what kind of similar color is there that we can easily just mass produce, right? Just buy the color and use it. And so that actually how we ended up with this very classic orange. And so that's the story of how we came up with it.
Just being pragmatic, basically.
It was very pragmatic. It was emotional, democratic, and also kind of an accident that in the end it was this orange. But today, it's really a great color, because it's not only super nice for our brand awareness, right? It's also just perfect for flying outside, right? It's the contrast towards the sky or towards forests for visibility, and so it's a really good choice, and people really like it.
Yeah, I agree. I think very striking, to say the least. But it's funny that you guys basically, it sounds like you basically just chose orange because it was like the cheapest, easiest thing to do. And actually, in your defense, I'm pretty sure it's the same story around why our Red Edge 3 and our Red Edge M were red. I think it was just because that was like the easiest, cheapest color to source. So
yeah, it's for sure a pragmatic way we chose, right? It's a mix of actually want for something reddish, but then in the end we just picked what was there, and so yeah.
what brought you to Wingtra to begin with? It looks like you were probably one of the first people to join the team.
Yes, so I mean to go a step back. So I studied international affairs, and I was always very much interested in humanitarian relief, aid, or social business. So all these kind of social related jobs, and I kind of knew that I also want to do something like that when I actually finish my studies. And so after the studies, I was looking for a job, and I saw this job ad from Wingtra, and back then it was really a prototype and very few guys working there, but they were actually advertising on the job description that this new technology, this drone, can be used for search and rescue. And so this was kind of my hook. I was like, oh, that's cool, it's kind of a new technology and you can use it for like social good. And so I applied, and then we had just a very very nice interview. So it was four guys and I, and it was very challenging but also fun. So I remember we laughed a lot, and so the chemistry was really good. And so 4 days later I started the job, and since then I'm still there. And yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the WingtraOne specifically, and like what makes it unique in the market? You know, at this point in time, there's a few other competitor aircraft. I would argue they're similar to the WingtraOne. So like, how have you guys been able to stand out?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so WingtraOne is a drone, a vertical takeoff and landing drone that is, her purpose is mapping and surveying. So it is used by professionals around the world for mapping sites. And what makes it unique is, on one side, it's really the design. So it has a unique design in terms of how it actually is operating. So it is this vertical takeoff and landing drone, which is taking off vertically, and then it transitions. So the whole wing kind of transitions in air and goes to forward flight. And with that, it's super efficient. It just needs very little space to be operated. And on the other side, it's the quality of the camera, so the quality of the images. That's one big plus. So we have very good resolution, very good accuracy that you get with the plane. So that's a bit. I mean, of course, there are other features that really make it very easy and nice to use and to integrate in the workflow. That's a bit on the product. And then of course we have a big team behind Wingtra. So by now we are around 80 people that work for this company, and we have a big support team. And so we really are very close to our customers, and we really have a close feedback loop with our customers and great relationships. So that's really, we can really support and educate our users, and that's something that also is for us super important. And by now, I mean, we just collected a lot of experience, right? So we have hundreds of flight hours, I mean thousands of flight hours, and we just became the real, I mean, very, very, very reliable drone out there. And so we had so many learnings on the way, and we have so many feature releases and software updates. And so by now it's really just a great tool to work. It's just very reliable and robust.
I was on your website a couple of days ago, and I saw that new, like kind of the new shopping functionality on the, you pick through the different options to build your plane. I thought that was really intuitive and straightforward. And
yeah, great to hear.
I like the pricing transparency. Like it's always, personally, I feel like it's a turnoff when I go to a website and I can't see like how much something costs, and like it's not transparent about that. So I think it's great that companies like Wingtra are going in that direction, where they're just like, here's what it is. Like this is what you purchase. Like there's no hidden costs or gimmicks. It's like, it's straightforward, you know?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, this product configurator, as we call it, yeah, it just makes it easy and obvious for the customer what is in the package and what can they get. Because by now we have quite a lot of different products and add-ons and trainings and services that you can buy as well with the product, and it's just easier to understand, okay, what is it that I get. And so I agree with you, it just makes it easier for the customer, and with that it's much easier to interact with the customer as well.
I'd be interested to hear about kind of some growing pains from Wingtra from the early days, like 15, 16, 17, probably not 17, maybe 15, 16, like what was tricky to overcome, some interesting stories on that front.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, we were young and inexperienced, right? So I think there were so many things that we did for the first time. And of course, there were so many things we just didn't do right, or we had to learn the painful way of actually how we should do it. And I mean, overall, I must say we have the philosophy, or yeah, kind of the working principle of just trial and error, and just go out, try it, and then iterate fast. So that was always kind of our way of working. And so we did a lot of course, we tried out a lot of things. We did a lot of things and had to learn, okay, maybe that's not the right way that we actually can grow. And in the end, you need to be also kind of naive to just go out and try out stuff, right? And to try different things. So if you ask me, okay, what went wrong? I mean, I can say, I mean, there were probably hundreds of things that didn't work out, and in the end, you just have to tweak it and try again. So we had the market entry early 2017, and so up to that point, I mean, we were just trying out different business models. We're trying out different customer base. We were trying out different, I don't know, even our pitch changed completely over the time, right? So it's a lot of things that we learned on the way. And in the end, we were all like basically fresh from studies. So we really didn't have any gray hair in our team. And so, yeah, so we really had to learn from each other. And so, yeah, but overall, I think we did well, and we were kind of able to kind of pull it off.
What were some of the first kind of customer types that you went after? I'd be interested to know what your initial expectations were on that front.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we were testing or kind of trying out different industries. The first, when we actually then decided to start just selling now the product, that kind of we said, okay, now we're ready, we just go out. We had a beta program basically where we approached different Swiss engineering offices. So that was kind of the first customer group that we had, local. So we had a close relationship or close feedback loop as well. And then we were able to actually quite quickly win those as our first customers. And then we tried out with them. We sold them the product. They had the chance to actually give it back if they didn't like it, but none of them gave it back. And so we quite quickly realized, okay, I think it's we're good to go. So we can now kind of maybe scale a bit more. And so yeah, and so step by step we started to get or gain interest and experience in the market.
Before you came on, had that team of 4 actually sold an aircraft yet, or did that happen after you came on?
No, it was after. So I joined. I mean, the company was, the founders decided to actually do something with that as a startup with this technology that was originally an idea at university, like at ETH, the technical university in Switzerland, in Zurich. And that was 2015. And no, sorry, late 2014. And I joined in like half a year later. And then we sold the first plane at Intergeo in Berlin, I think it was in 2016. We sold the first unit, and that was actually a also very funny story because we sold this airplane also announcing that we only deliver in Q1, like half a year later. And this customer he was just so excited, and he wanted to buy this airplane. He actually even wanted to buy in cash. And we were so excited. He was so excited. He's still our customer. He loves the WingtraOne, and it was a really great story. So that was the first sale before we actually had the product to deliver, and that was also the first sale in Wingtra history, let's say.
Did you guys go out? I mean, what was the team reaction at that point? I can't imagine.
It was amazing. I remember we had dinner that night, and we also celebrated with a bottle of champagne when we were back in the office in Zurich. And yeah, that was great. I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing if you think, okay, wow, someone is actually paying several thousands of Swiss francs or dollars for this technology that we invented. So it's yeah, it was amazing for the team. It was, I mean, it's a great how you say, a great gift or kind of a great appreciation of all the work that went in there.
How far into the process did multispectral payloads start to become an option or a thought?
So it was, the first cameras was RGB, and so we just started with one camera, but quite early on we realized, okay, multispectral is really a demand from the market. And so it was probably the second or third camera that we then integrated. So it was back then it was the Red Edge 3.
Yep.
That we integrated first, and we always had demand for this camera, and we always knew, okay, agriculture seems to be a huge market, and we wanna gain foot there. So and I mean, today it's not only agriculture where we see interest, but it's more of in general applications where vegetation is involved. So it's not purely ag, but it's much more general environmental use cases where we see that these multispectral cameras are really popular and a great tool. So
yeah, I remember back in 2016 getting you guys set up with that loaner unit. So I think I offered the loaner unit, and then later I was like, shoot, I shouldn't have offered the loaner unit because I think you guys were like would have purchased, but then I made the offer already, and I was like, oh well. So it actually panned out.
Yeah, I just wanted to say,
well. Yeah.
it's it should have paid off for all of us.
Totally. I just remember that because I hadn't been with MicaSense very long, and back in 2016 it was like pulling teeth to get a loaner out the door, and so I made that offer, and then I had to kind of like go plead on my knees to my bosses to get it out.
Well, thanks, Brew, for this offer back then. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, that's funny. And then you guys sent a picture of the integration with what was it, with like a George Clooney pop-up or something?
Yeah, George Clooney. Yeah, he's still in our office. It's a cardboard George Clooney for those who.
What were some of the early customers that purchased the WingtraOne with the Red Edge integrated? What were they up to? What were their applications?
So one of the earlier customers was a research institution here in Switzerland, and they do a lot of research in the ag field. So they are monitoring crop and disease on this crop. So they have all kind of different measurement tools and on all different resolution levels. And so drone imagery was also one of their projects where they actually wanted to do research on. So that was one. So that's connected to this technical university as well here in Zurich, as I mentioned before. That was one of the early applications. But I mean, today we really have quite a variety of users that use the Red Edge and also the Altum by now, which we implemented this year. And so we have, from people that do they map different mammals. So, for example, we had a project in Africa, in Zambia, I think, where they mapped elephants. And we have not only in the animal sector, but also we have had just this year the customer, which is the Kenyan Red Cross, and they used the multispectral for mapping the areas that were hit very heavily by this locust invasion. And so that's also very impressive to see how such a map can actually help to identify these areas. So this is just a few that I can mention, but it's really very on different levels where the maps are very helpful.
Yeah, I was really happy to see that that blog post you guys did on the after effects from the locusts in Africa, because
Mhm.
we've been talking internally about that a little bit, and we were thinking, shoot, it'd be so great if we had a story around using multispectral imagery in relation to that the locust plague, and then you guys came out with it, so it was perfect. We were really
Perfect. Great.
You mentioned that you have customers on all continents. Do you have any interesting use cases on like, in Antarctica or any other really remote, obscure places?
Yes, I mean, we do have customers that map glaciers in Greenland. So there we had, and also Alaska actually. One in Alaska, and there is also this nice user story on our homepage about this. There is this glacier that kind of melts or breaks off, and with that they map kind of the flood potential of the near communities of these villages. And in Greenland they map just the progression of the glacier and how much it actually moves back or kind of melts. We also have a team that is in Antarctica, and they were also mapping just huge fields of ice. So yes, so it's very remote applications. Yeah.
Is that ice mapping primarily with an RGB, or is there multispectral involved in that?
I think they have both cameras with them, but also here I'm not sure which one they were using primarily.
Yeah, I know we've worked with some people in some universities out of New Zealand who have done some mapping in Antarctica with our cameras. I think it was actually looking at like moss growth or something. Technically, there is some plant life going on in Antarctica, believe it or not. But yeah, I kind of the same as you. I don't really know a whole lot on the details around it. I think we're trying to get a sample data set from some of those people.
Oh, great.
Hopefully it's not like a big white map.
I mean, it's also a good sign if it's still big and white, right?
Yeah, right. If you got a lot of water in the image, then maybe it's a bad sign for everybody, huh?
Exactly.
I think drone delivery and drone emergency response, that sort of thing, that's been pretty hot on the drone news lately. And it seems like the WingtraOne payload could potentially be some a package of some sort. Probably not very big, but are there any plans for Wingtra to get into that space in the near future?
I mean, drone delivery is very, very interesting. And in fact, it was one of the very first applications that we were looking into. In the end, the whole idea around having a vertical takeoff and landing drone and fly efficiently in the forward flight was for the purpose of making delivery more effective. So that was kind of the initial idea. But then in the end, we understood like, okay, it's actually quite difficult to start in the transport industry and kind of compete with all these logistic giants. And so what we figured out back then is kind of the most valuable good that you could transport is data and kind of images. And so that's why we then in the very early days we decided against going for policy delivery, but actually start off with mapping. And but of course it's a very interesting case. Right now we're not focusing on it, but I mean I don't want to, I couldn't say that we're never going to do this, right? I think with the WingtraOne it would be super interesting. It's because the whole capability just makes the whole application bi-directional, right? So right now there are a lot of drone delivery companies out there that have fixed wings and where they just drop the parcel and then fly back. But with the VTOL, you could actually do it bi-directional, and so I think that's a very big potential for this whole application.
Have you seen the big Amazon VTOL drone that they put together? It's like pretty crazy looking. It's kind of like a hexagon type.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, there were different versions, I think they were working on. Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that people are working on this and people are working on this application. I think it's a huge potential. I still think it's going to need some time until it's actually going to be kind of an established use case. There are some cases in Africa, for example, from Zipline. I mean, they do a fantastic job, right? That's amazing. That's great. They have figured out their sweet spot, and so it really shows the value add of a drone delivery in the Met application. So yeah.
So Drew's been at the company for what, 4 years now?
Yeah, 2016.
Right. Okay, I've only been here for a year and a half or so, and mainly, so I work on the support teams, and mainly I'm talking to customers, helping them out with their integrations or whatever trouble they have. But also I go out and fly the drones for the testing the new software on the cameras.
Have you been flying WingtraOne?
No, we only ever do multi-rotor.
Yeah, we really should. Maybe we should do some sort of swap. The next time you guys place an Altum order, maybe we could give it to you for free, and then you can.
Yeah, this loaner unit you were referring to.
Yeah, right. I brought that up strategically.
Maybe we owe you.
Yeah, I mean that sounds. What are your local or your U.S. distributors? Do you have multiple ones per country, or?
Yeah, we're pretty much covered.
Okay, which one do you have here?
So West Coast is a lot of RDO territory, but we also have people in Denver. So if you ever happen to be in Denver, we have Wingtranauts working in Denver. So.
Okay. Yeah, my grandparents live in Denver. So.
Yeah, so perfect. Next time you're gonna visit them, call them up. They would be happy to host you.
Is it an office in Denver, or is it just basically a few people working out of Denver?
It's basically people that work out of Denver, and not yet a full office setup.
What are the expansion plans for Wingtra? Are you guys going to stay in Switzerland, or are you looking to expand into the US, or maybe have an office in Asia somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, some of so first of all, we always gonna stay here in Zurich, Switzerland as well. I mean, we just have great resources here, not only from a talent perspective, but also kind of the industry is just great here in Switzerland. We have a bit of this drone valley, and a lot of things and developments are happening here. And so that's really a great base to have. And then, of course, we have the US, which is one of the very important markets for us. And we have a team there, as I just mentioned, that works out of the US. And so, I mean, yes, I think in the future, this will probably kind of develop into maybe settling a bit more officially in the US, I could imagine. And but yeah, so I think overall we have a lot of distribution partners as well. So they are our helping hands. They are providing local services, local support, demo, after sales support, and all of that. So we don't even have to go there ourselves everywhere, but we really have great partners that help us and that do a great and fantastic job to bring the WingtraOne to the people.
How many countries do you guys have dealers in currently?
It's around 70.
70?
Yes.
Wow, that's great. It's kind of interesting that smaller sort of hardware tech startups or tech companies like Wingtra and MicaSense, it seems like a lot of our success is owed to our dealer networks. I think that's been a really good strategic move for companies like us to get market penetration really quickly.
Absolutely. I mean, I think as well with multispectral data, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but a big part is also education, right? So you have to kind of support your users. You have to, because it's new, right? It's new possibilities, and so you guys are probably also investing a lot in educational topics and supporting your users. So, and having professionals doing that together with you, like partners that do that for you and with you, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. We're always trying to think of ways we can better educate and train the dealers, because we know it's going to have the ripple effect of them feeling more confident talking to their customers about multispectral. and our cameras. So it seems like that's when it comes to MicaSense sales activity, it's always kind of just like brainstorming on how can we engage our partners better, and how can we give them more resources to sell more. And like one of those efforts right now is this master class, which is basically just teaching them how to process and analyze data.
Right.
And so they can get in front of customers and show them how to actually utilize the data that they're collecting. That's kind of the big barrier for a lot of people, is like, yeah, that the drone is really impressive technologically. The camera captures really interesting data, but then like once that's completed, what's the next step after that? And so I think that's where we're kind of putting a lot of focus. And it seems like that's what Wingtra is doing as well. I mean, that's the purpose of these stories, right? These marketing stories is like, how are people using the RGB or multispectral data that they're actually capturing with the drone and camera?
Yes, I think the user stories and these blog posts that we create, it just gives a lot of visibility. Okay, how people actually use it and how do they actually benefit from it? Because in the end, you really have to understand, okay, what is the value add, right? And so we write a lot about the return on invest and how they actually gain in efficiency, and only kind of by showing this, other people can see, okay, I actually have quite a similar case, and so this could be useful for me. So that's one way to educate the users, and then of course formats like webinars or just personalized, customized trainings. I mean, it's also super important.
To close things out, I just thought I'd ask you some maybe less relevant questions to remote sensing and drones and ag. Before I get to those, I think what we'll try to do is post the locust story that we referenced earlier to the description of this episode. We've never done that before, but I think we're technologically savvy enough to figure it out. And then I think also another fun thing to post is the VTOL takeoff of the WingtraOne. So everybody listening, I recommend checking out those two links. Hopefully we can figure out how to add those. But getting back to the questions. So since you are not in the U.S., you're a Swiss citizen. If someone forced you to move to the U.S., what state would you prefer to live in, and why?
It's a good question. I am overall a very open personality, so I would not have a fixed idea right now. But I've never been to Denver, and I have colleagues working in Denver, so I think Denver would be a great city to visit for a short or longer term. And also, I heard Colorado must be beautiful in terms of nature. So here in Switzerland, we have all these mountains and lakes and snow and stuff. And so that's things I really appreciate. So I would say I would feel pretty comfortable and welcome in Denver, probably.
What is your favorite sci-fi book or movie?
Oh, boy. That's a really difficult question. What I really loved was the series Stranger Things.
Oh yeah.
That's about it.
Stranger Things has an awesome like synthwave soundtrack.
I love the soundtrack. It's basically, I think it's the best part of it.
Yeah. If you go on YouTube and search synthwave music, it basically comes up with a bunch of Stranger Things
great
image covers. So
great.
Highly recommend. Good answer. I like that answer. If somebody wants to reach out to Wingtra to learn more about your system and its capabilities, how should they get in touch, Stephanie?
Well, the easiest way is really just through the homepage. I mean, you can also just hit me up on LinkedIn, of course. And on the homepage, you can just fill in a little contact form. And the good thing is that we just loop in local partners directly. So that would be just the easiest way to also find out who will be your local representative.
Great. Thanks again, Stephanie, for joining us on episode 2. We'll try to get this thing posted as soon as possible.
Thanks, you guys. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie.
Bye-bye.